Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 11.
New documents obtained exclusively by CNN indicate WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange had a series of suspicious meetings at the Ecuadorian embassy in London while he lived there, and he may have received hacked materials related to the 2016 U.S. election. Good evening and thanks for joining us on NBC 16 News at 11. I'm Alexis Thrower. Alan Matthews is on assignment. The information comes from surveillance reports compiled for the Ecuadorian government by a private Spanish security company called UC Global. They chronicle Assange's movements in life at the embassy, where he lived for nearly 7 years. The Australian native fled there in June 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden, where he was facing sexual assault allegations at the time. The reports describe how Assange turned the embassy into a sort of command center. He met with dozens of people, including Russians and world-class hackers, frequently for hours at a time. Assange also acquired powerful computing and networking hardware to facilitate data transfers in 2016, just weeks before WikiLeaks received hacked materials from Russian operatives. Assange was also allowed to compile a special list of people who could enter the embassy without showing ID or being searched by security. He was granted the power to delete names from the visitor logs and occasionally met guests inside the women's bathroom to avoid surveillance cameras. British police yanked Assange from the embassy in April. He is now serving a 1-year prison term in London for skipping bail in the UK while aggressively fighting extradition to the US. President Trump doubling down with harsh words to 4 Democratic congresswomen, all women of color, all American citizens, whom he told over the weekend to go back to their home countries. Today, the president brushing off the criticism. The 4 women targeted by president's language speaking out. NBC's Hallie Jackson has the details.
A united front late today from the freshman Democrats attacked by the president as he fans the flames of racial resentment.
This is his plan to pit us against one another.
This is a distraction, and we should not take the bait.
He does not know how to defend his policies. So what he does is attack us personally. And that is what this is all about.
I urge House leadership, many of my colleagues, to take action to impeach this lawless president today.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib, 4 outspoken newly elected progressive lawmakers, make up the so-called squad, singled out, though not by name, by the president, who tweeted Sunday they should go back to their home countries, deploying a racist trope meant to marginalize people of color. Only Omar was born elsewhere in Somalia. All 4 women are U.S. citizens.
These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country.
The president looking to exploit the Democratic divide between progressives and moderates, not bothered by the criticism and not backing down. Asked at the White House if he's concerned people see his comments as racist and that white nationalists seek common cause.
It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me. And all I'm saying, they want to leave, they can leave.
GOP leadership silent so far, although at least 17 Republicans have denounced the president's comments.
I think those tweets are racist and xenophobic. They're also inaccurate.
Most other Republicans stopping short of calling the remarks racist.
What was said and what was tweeted was destructive, was demeaning, was disunifying, and frankly, was very wrong.
That was Hallie Jackson reporting. A handful of Republicans are supporting the president, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi plans to force a vote on their positions with a symbolic resolution. Mexico's Foreign Relations Secretary Marcelo Ebrard said today that his country does not agree with any measures that limits access to asylum. That was a reference to measures announced today by the U.S. government to end asylum protections for most migrants who arrive at the U.S.-Mexico border. Ebrard said at a news conference in Mexico City that a safe third country agreement with the United States is not going to happen. He later appeared to hedge on that, saying it would need prior congressional approval. He said Mexico would maintain its current asylum practices. Mexico's asylum system is also currently overwhelmed by a rise in requests. The U.S. published a new rule in the Federal Register that says asylum seekers who pass through another country first will be ineligible for asylum at the U.S. southern border. The rule, expected to go into effect tomorrow, also applies to children who have crossed the U.S.-Mexico border alone. A nationwide crackdown to apprehend thousands of illegal immigrants across the country began over the weekend in the nation's largest cities. The operation is expected to target about 2,000 undocumented immigrants ordered by courts to be removed from the country. How is the rhetoric over immigration policy affecting people in Eugene? Well, NBC 16's Christelle Kumwe spoke with local law enforcement and has our story.
Anytime the federal government decides to engage in any kind of enforcement activity around immigration, it really causes a lot of concern in most communities.
Including here in Eugene. Local immigration attorney Abigail Molina says she heard concerns not only from undocumented immigrants, but also those with documents.
If they have a student visa or have a green card, I heard this weekend many people were carrying their U.S. passports because they were concerned that just because they might look like an immigrant, they might be targeted.
Eugene's police chief hopes these concerns don't add on to another challenge they face: underreported crimes.
It's horribly underreported in our migrant community, in our communities of color and marginalized communities, and we know it's underreported in our homeless communities.
With that in mind, Chief Skinner wants to reiterate local police are restricted by Oregon law from giving information to or working with ICE.
We don't engage in immigration enforcement is because we want people to feel like they can come to us for help, not because they're going to be criticized or marginalized for their status.
So how many undocumented people live in the community?
I think they're hard to come by because a lot of people don't want to necessarily come out of the shadows.
But regardless of what those numbers are, EPD is focused on creating a safe community for everyone.
That's an important piece of what community policing is in the 21st century, is trying to create an atmosphere where all victims feel safe to be able to report crime.
In Eugene, Christelle Kumwe reporting.
On to a first look at weather. NBC 16's Travis Knutson joins us now.
High temperatures across western Oregon today. We're below average for this time of year, but still a very comfortable Monday all around. Eugene made it to 80 degrees today. Roseburg warmed up to 83, and on the coast, North Bend, Coos Bay area, not bad at 72. Satellite and radar the last few hours have clouds continuing to stream in from the Pacific Ocean, and that's why things remain a little gray for the next couple of days. And eventually, we could see some showers back in our area. But temperatures tonight cooling down to the mid to upper 50s for many spots. Highs tomorrow below average once again, but not too bad. 78 degrees for a high in Eugene. Roseburg warming up to 82 and upper 60s on the coast. And while the short-term forecast is looking fairly dry, we are supporting a chance for rain later on this week. I'll tell you exactly when some of those showers may return back to western Oregon. That's coming up here in my full forecast minutes away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Travis. And new at 11, the Eugene City Council heard public comments tonight about an ordinance that would increase the city's ability to provide rest stops for the homeless. The revised ordinance would allow the city to contribute funding towards rest stops. It also backs off a previous restriction that requires rest stops to be placed away from schools and residential areas with some conditions.
In a neighborhood or a school, it will only be allowed if council says that any problems, potential problems, would be mitigated. So it's not a blanket, oh, now we can put them anywhere. Council still has to approve the sites, but the number of sites will be increased.
All of those who spoke at the public hearing voiced their support for the revision, including Eric Jackson, who often represents the homeless community here in Eugene.
It's offering additional options. It doesn't mean that anything's going to get done, but at least it's got potential to be looked into.
Electricity.
A vote on the revision will be held July 22nd at 7:30 following a public comment period. Tonight, Amazon is rolling out Deep Discounts, a blockbuster event that has a lot of customers cashing in, but the day is also being marked by protest over what some employees say are unsustainable conditions. Here's NBC's Jolene Kent.
Tonight, on one of the biggest shopping days of the year, some Amazon workers are striking for change. As Amazon rolls out hundreds of deals and demand bogs down its website, warehouse workers walked off the job, calling for safer workplace conditions and less strenuous standards to meet the huge demand for free 2-day shipping.
There's all this pressure to perform and to meet productivity rates. It's unbelievable.
What is the rate that you have to hit?
I have to pick 332 items per hour.
Lots of workers do feel like they are disposable.
These workers pick and pack orders at this Minnesota fulfillment center.
If you don't work enough, 200, 400 units per hour, you will get written up at the end of the week. And if you get so many write-ups, you lose your job.
Activists and unions also joining the protests, marching outside the New York apartment of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. Amazon, which last year increased its minimum wage to $15 an hour, responded to the protesters, telling us,
"We're actually really proud of the working conditions that we provide. It's a quality, safe, comfortable work environment. We value direct dialogue and conversation with our employees, always to find ways to improve it."
But some employees aren't buying it.
Amazon says the walkout today will not impact their shipping promises for consumers. They say this is a small number of workers protesting. The two-day Prime sale wraps tomorrow and is on track to bring in more than $5 billion for the online giant. And next at 11, OSU has some remarkable research to help better understand causes of a birth defect that affects the skull. And later in the show, Tom Adams will bring us the details on state plans that are in motion for the possibility of the big quake.
If you're in need of a job or maybe wanting to change professions.
News at 11.
Researchers at OSU have made a breakthrough discovery after understanding the causes of a serious birth defect that affects the skull. This is a big step towards one day creating treatment for thousands of children. NBC 16's Stephanie Rothman visited the lab and one of the scientists in charge of the project.
Roughly 58,000 children a year around the world will be born with craniosynostosis, a brain disorder that stunts early development.
This is not all that uncommon, and we've just identified a new cause for this disease.
A mutation. Medical problems include impaired vision, mental function, as well as an abnormal shaped head.
When we mutate one protein, one amino acid in one protein, this tissue that's supposed to be non-bony, is now completely turns to bone.
This puts pressure on the brain that needs room to grow. The skull closes off, preventing this. Leeds says patients will undergo roughly 4 major surgeries by the time they're a teenager. Research to find a way to prevent this started on mice in 2003.
Whatever we find from this mouse will be helpful for patients with this disease. I mean, that's kind of what drives us.
With help from the University of Oxford and Danish scientists, they were able to compare notes on the mice and on a human brain.
But the mouse with the single point mutation in this gene completely mimics the human disease. And for us, for biologists, that's huge.
Treatment could help prevent bone from growing back after surgery.
It's rare in biology where we can say, this caused that. Normally we sound like, well, it's an association, right? But in this case, we have the ability to say this mutation the patient had caused the disease because we proved it.
Lead and his team of graduate students are working to find out why the mutation creates more bone in the skull. By testing genes in the mice and their human subject, their hope is to soon make another breakthrough and get treatment to those in need. And turning to weather now, NBC 16's Travis Knudsen is standing by for a look at what's coming up in your full forecast. Hey, Travis.
The short-term forecast is somewhat gray for the next few days and our temperatures below average, but there is an opportunity for some rain come early Thursday morning. I'll tell you the odds. That's in my full forecast next.
At umbrellaproperties.com, you can find your kind of home. Knudsen.
Skies today certainly had a lot more gray overhead than blue as the morning began with some low stratus, and then by the time we reached the afternoon, we saw some of this, which was some cumulus clouds overhead, and rain was seen in our area today. It was just pretty much for those higher elevations up in the Cascades, and the next couple of days, cumulus clouds like this will become more common, and when you see those cumulus clouds billowing up, it means that there's some energy in the atmosphere and the opportunity for some rain, and later on this week, we actually could see some localized rainfall for our area, which means those lower valleys, but still for now, much of the region remains dry. The satellite and radar loop all evening long has had clouds continuing to stream in from the Pacific Ocean, and that remains true, but our rain chances actually are associated with the storm system up in the Gulf of Alaska, which is still forming, still gaining a lot of its strength, still organizing itself, but eventually it does start to slide its way down the coast of British Columbia, and you can see right on this frontal boundary is some rainfall that eventually will move its way in. At this point, there's still a bit of some unknown exactly when this cold front will arrive, possibly Wednesday Wednesday evening, maybe Thursday morning. Right now, it looks like more likely to happen Thursday morning. But basically, Wednesday night into Thursday, we could see some showers here around the area. But in the short term, still pretty dry for our area. Much of the rain that does actually fall is limited to those higher elevations, the coastal mountain range, the Cascades, lower elevations, the Willamette Valley, the Umpqua Valley. Pretty dry. This is tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, where there's a little bit of rain around the region, but just those higher elevations. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, still seeing those cumulus clouds around the region. A couple rain showers are possible, but these little green blips here are not really much of a chance. The vast majority of us are dry for our Tuesday. Even as we head into our Wednesday, this is Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. There's the low stratus waking us up as we start the day. Heading throughout Wednesday, the cumulus clouds form, rain showers maybe here and there across the higher elevations, but it's not until Wednesday night into Thursday morning when maybe we see some rain falling at the valley floor and a bit more common on the coast as well. Now, as far as our temperatures are concerned across the Willamette Valley, upper 70s on the way for Tuesday. Creswell at 79 degrees. Albany maybe reaching 80 degrees tomorrow. Florence at 65. The 7-day forecast here for the Eugene-Springfield area will be in the upper 70s as we move forward. Thursday, chance of rain in the morning. It's not much of a chance, but it's the highest chance for rain we've seen in quite some time across western Oregon. For the coast, facing some mid to upper 60s tomorrow. Brookings maybe at 71 for our Tuesday. Myrtle Point inland there, 74 degrees. Reedsport right around 69. The extended forecast for the Oregon coast has us sustaining those upper 60s and low 70s moving forward. A little bit higher of a chance for some rain on Thursday. Sunshine should become more common for the weekend, but it still never leaves the coast entirely. For the Umpqua Valley, for Douglas County, upper 70s and low 80s on the way for our Tuesday. Drain at about 81 degrees. Roseburg right around 82. Here's the 7-day forecast for Roseburg. We have a rain opportunity Thursday morning, but because Douglas County is a little farther to the south and the rain showers at this point look like they'll be more common to the north, it's only a 20% chance, but again, the highest chance we've seen in quite some time. Clouds finally clear out come Friday and the weekend with, by the end of this forecast, Roseburg should see mid-80s, which is back to about average for the middle of July.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Travis. And Northwest scientists warn we're in line for a major subduction zone earthquake in the coming years. So what happens if Salem and key state agencies are knocked out? Well, NBC 16's Tom Adams has the details on state plans that are in motion for that possibility.
Deschutes County, the fast-growing Bend and Redmond area as Quake Command Central. That's right, that's the plan if Salem gets knocked out from a 9.0 mega earthquake.
As of right now, we have been identified as a critical incident support base, one of the few in Oregon.
The Redmond Regional Airport is listed as a prime emergency ops center in the state's Cascadia playbook plan.
They've looked at what we can handle when it comes to aircraft, emergency management operations, maybe as like a mobile hospital.
If the huge quake strikes, Redmond Airport has 2 major runways, one of them recently updated in a $10 million project. Facilities that can stage not only federal and state disaster teams, but
resources, people, supplies, equipment will be flown or trucked into Central Oregon, most likely here at the Redmond Airport.
OEM directors say Central Oregon should also get ready for an unknown number of people fleeing the west side.
We need to make sure that we're constantly looking at our plans and updating them and evaluating them and trying to get a sense of what we can really expect for an incident or disaster that's on the magnitude of something that we've never seen in this country before.
But we do know that we will have some impacts as well, and so we're also planning around taking care of our citizens, ensuring that our citizens are prepared.
Lots of food for thought, as scientists estimate there's about a 35% chance that a major quake and tsunami will hit the Northwest in the next 50 years. Reporting in Deschutes County, I'm Tom Adams.
And now we are joined with Hayden Herrera in sports. Now we have a lot of great things in sports, especially about my favorite stories, the inspiring skater.
Oh yeah, of course. We've got that. It was so good we had to show it again.
Yes, of course.
But it's also football season. It's almost football season. They're the face of the offense and defense for the Ducks. Why the end of the college football season could translate into individual honors for Justin Herbert and Troy Dye.
And Doug. NBC 16 Sports Desk is brought to you by Three Rivers Casino Resort.
SEC football media days are this week in Hoover, Alabama. On Thursday, the Auburn Tigers will take the podium. War Eagle is the first opponent for Oregon in the 2019 season, and it's probably safe to say head coach Gus Malzahn has been plotting all summer on how to contain Justin Herbert. The Ducks senior quarterback was named Monday to the Maxwell Award watch list given to America's College Player of the Year. It's the second straight year Herbert has been named to the watch list. He was a semifinalist for the award last season. Another Duck earning preseason recognition is senior linebacker Troy Dye, named to the Bednarik Award watch list, given to the College Defensive Player of the Year. Dye has led Oregon in tackles for 3 straight seasons. The Emeralds continuing their series on the road against the Boise Hawks. After winning on Sunday, the Ems lose Monday by a score of 4-2. Zach Mort takes the loss for Eugene. The rubber match between these two Tuesday at 6:15 p.m. The Roseburg skate team is gearing up for nationals this week, where 4 of their athletes qualified to compete. And by making it to that big stage, one of those skaters is also proving nothing will hold her back. NBC 16's Maria Santora reports.
When it comes to the Roseburg skate team, they're rolling with passionate athletes.
What I absolutely love about skating is I get to work with my team.
My favorite part about the whole thing is when our coach plays music and we get to line up and do whatever we want to it.
And that passion has no limits.
I think when I first showed up, they were shocked, like, who is this woman? And if she falls, she's gonna break a hip.
At the age of 60, Tamla LaHaye decided it was time to break out her skates again.
After a 47-year break, I took it up again about a year and a half ago.
But rolling back onto the rink after all that time came with its challenges.
Had to relearn everything. Everything.
That includes changes in equipment.
First off, my skates they belong in a museum now.
And recovery time.
When I fell as a child, it was no big deal. When I fall now, it's a big deal.
To help bring her up to speed, Tamla turns to her tinier teammates for some tips.
I watch some of the younger girls, and it's completely different from how I was taught to do it. I'm thinking, I need to try it that way.
Despite a few bumps and bruises, when she does perfect a new skill,
huge accomplishment. I thought I was just the bee's knees.
And her teammates think so too.
She was really, really encouraging.
We usually spend a lot of time together when I'm getting ready.
She came to me and said, "But you did great."
She usually helps me with dance and figures.
So Tamla is not only welcomed by her younger pals, she also qualified for nationals in her first competition, proving age.
It's just a number. It's a big number, but it's just a number. And if you have the drive, you just go for it.
Reporting in Roseburg, Maria Santora.
Skate on, Tamla. Skate
yes,
on.
Such a great story, and we'll have more news after the break.
Rufus decided to buy bags and mix his own concrete. Randy.
The scientists are working to send the Española chili pepper to the International Space Station. This will be the first fruiting plant the U.S. harvested there. The space agency wants to send astronauts to Mars, and they need to send food with plenty of nutrients. Scientists believe the pepper can be pollinated easily and thrive in a high carbon dioxide environment. Chili peppers, which are packed with plenty of vitamins, will also help astronauts stay healthy while in space. And NASA has already grown some foods in space, including a variety of lettuce and red Russian kale. Oh my goodness.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, my favorite band.
Oh my goodness. Well, have you actually had a spicy chili pepper before?
I'm not a spicy, not that spicy.
My grandmother, she grows them in the backyard. My cousin ate one, and his face, he shouldn't have done that.
No,
but
too often.
Whatever. Thanks for watching NBC 16 News at 11. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon is next.
Welcome to Village Fitness.